Alright, good afternoon everybody. Back here in the backyard looking at my my mess, my hoard, all the junk. This junk over here stays until one of these days I get rid of it. But gonna try to process a little bit of metal, get some of this stuff tore apart. Picked up this air conditioning unit from the school the other day. It's got all kinds of good copper and aluminum in it. Got help with the dog today, but she's not a whole lot of help. She just wants to smell everything. So let me get started here. I'm going to start by pulling the evaporators out of this, what was the air handler, which is the unit that's actually inside the house, the part that actually gets cold. And these are self-explanatory. Just start tearing the screws apart. Like I say, you start taking nuts and bolts out, sooner or later it'll fall apart. You know, for every scrapper, everybody scraps a different way, you know. When it comes to micro scrapping or different things that you will and won't pick up, it's basically a matter of choice, opinion, whatever you want to do. You know, you can do as much micro scrapping or as little micro scrapping as you want to. Of course, generally with scrap metal, the more effort you put into it, the more money you can make out of it. But if you're happy with just taking everything and throwing it off at the tin shred pile and just doing a simple sort of your aluminum and what have you, you know, scrapping out maybe your chairs and crutches as dirty aluminum, that's, you know, that's up to you. I see a lot of guys that do it. They scrap out everything they pick up every day. They just sort it out. Yep, it's basically just a matter of what you want to, or how much effort you want to put in to scrap metal. I mean, everybody knows the more you put in the micro scrapping, the more money you're going to make. You know, as far as pulling electric motors and, you know, even taking your electric motors and going as far as stripping all the copper out of them. To me, this is well worth it. Look at the copper there. All that copper. And these cores here, radiators, aluminum, copper radiators, excuse me, whatever you want to call them. My scrapyard refers to them as refrigeration cores. They pay $1 a pound, clean. Which cleaning them up isn't too hard. I'll take a Sawzall and cut down here, cut this metal strip off with all these little bent noodles, macaroni, I call them copper berries. And then I'll sit down and I'll pluck all these off, all this copper off. And this piece is just tin shred. And we'll leave this copper aluminum radiator. And that will go as a clean reefer core at $1 a pound. Yep. Snag. Oh, let me see. I got more here. Oh, that's off. So anybody thinking about getting into scrap metal, I have to say, it's actually a pretty good thing to get into, whether you're doing it full-time or part-time or, you know, just hobby-wise. because hey, make a few dollars, keep yourself busy, especially for those who are retired and looking for something extra to do, or somebody just looking to put a few extra bucks in their pocket. So yeah, I'll just separate these two from each other. Let me see. Use the old cable cutters here. Got it. Yep, I think that's got them apart. Oh, squirrels are up in the trees having a ball. All right. Just put these off to the side. And I'm gonna get the core out of this one, which just basically looks like an aluminum core. Copper tubing going up to the aluminum. So this will actually pay as clean sheet aluminum, which is 47 cents a pound versus the $1 a pound if I had the copper and aluminum. So let me see. Get this thing apart. What do we got? A bunch of old Phillips screws. I just want to take this metal plate out of the way. Now my sister-in-law actually does scrap metal. This is all she does, is she has a connect with an air conditioning company, and all she does is tear apart air conditioners. She provides the labor, he provides the old AC units, and they split the money right down the middle, which is a pretty good deal. Because I've actually helped her when dealing with the all the tin shred, all the leftovers, all the casings, and you know, some of these air conditioning units are bigger than my truck, and the cores out of them are huge. You know, be a good 12 inches wide. I ain't got my garbage can back here. Doesn't look like I ever use it, but yeah, I have a garbage can. So let's see, this thing should lift out of here once I cut it off. What did I do with my cable cutters? I put them back in the truck. Try to cut this stuff off. Try to cut these close to where, I missed that one totally. Yeah, try to cut them close with the copper and the aluminum meat. course, you want as much of the copper as you can possibly get because it pays a lot more than aluminum. So that's a nice piece of copper there. Got a little bit of aluminum I got to trim off of there, which I'll just throw that in a bucket over there and I'll go through that. Okay, just the lines going to the compressor. I think everything is off of the core. Thing should just lift right out of there. Whoop. Yep, it can fall apart on me. It's alright, because I'm going to cut it down and make it a little smaller anyway. Always makes it easier to deal with. Look at the fuzz in that thing. Now I have to go through and cut all the zip ties that have these cores all together, which it looks like they got them every few. And I'll probably cut it down to make it a little easier to deal with. But here's the goodies. The copper and the compressor. I wonder if I can get that unbolted. Come on. Get a cheater pipe. Get a little more leverage. There's one. That wasn't too bad. More copper tubing. Fittings should all be brass. So I'm just gonna set that off to the side. Some more. Should be brass fittings. I'll have to double check them with my grinder. Just grind a little bit on there. You can see the coloring underneath it if it's brass. Well, that one's got a brass fitting that is bolted to it. I was actually lucky. I didn't have to take this one to have it reclaimed, have the Freon taken out. Oh, not gonna come through the hole, huh? Yeah, I didn't have to have the refrigerant removed because there was no refrigerant in it. He said that's actually why they replaced it. And you see that? That's all brass, except for the little copper lines, which I'll clip that off. And the copper goes with the copper, and the brass goes with the brass. So as you notice, I kind of tear these apart, throw everything off to the side, and then I'll sit down and deal with all that. Now, you're going to see these little tubes on a lot of air conditioning products. This is actually a dryer. There is a filter in there with these little beads that help take the moisture out of the Freon. The thing is there are generally little metal screens here, and then the beads are all in the center. So I actually have to take something and cut this open. If I want to get a clean copper price, I have to cut this open, take the beads out, and take the two little metal screens out, and then it'll go as clean copper. Which, like I say, that's why I throw it all off to the side, and then I get to it later. Alright, I know those are there. Let's see. I wonder if this compressor is going to unbolt for me. A lot of times the bolts get really rusty and don't want to come out too easily. Go with an extension. And sometimes they do. Looks like we're going to get lucky today. That one's bolted in from the other side, maybe. The nut's gone already. Can't see nothing with all the leaves. Well, that looks like somebody loosened the compressor up at one time. Huh. Interesting. Yep, it's got it. Oh Lord. Heavy, heavy. I can get a hold of it, huh? Just walk it out. Now, my scrapyard will buy these compressors, and the category it's under is heavy iron. They'll pay 10 cents a pound. Now, that thing is good and heavy, and will pay me a few dollars. You can take and cut these open. Take a grinder or what have you, cut it open, because there is basically a big electric motor in here that you can then pull the copper out. I don't take these apart because it's a greasy, oily mess. Generally what I do with these is I got a drain bucket and I just set them on the side, let the oil drain out of them. Oil goes into an old, one of those 5-quart oil change bottles, and then I take it in to be recycled at the local parts store. And I just take these in straight as they are. I don't cut them open. Just not worth the mess and the headache to me personally. I've been told, like I say, I've never done one, but I've been told there's a lot of copper in one of these things. So, choices you make. I'll just take it in the way it is, and I'll be happy with that. And now what I'm left with here is a mess of leaves and some tin shred, which I'm going to leave it as it is, because I will throw that in the back of my truck and then throw a bunch of the skibble scabble back in it, use it as a container. So alright, I got the AC tore apart, so now I want to deal with some of this mess. Well, while I'm standing here, let me hack this thing up. Because I believe the tips of these, where's my magnet? Oh, it's over there. Never where I need it. You'd think I'd have like 10,000 of these things. But yeah, where'd I put it? Duh. Yeah. Even the screw's aluminum. So I'm going to cut this thing up. Take the screws out of here. Connect this, and I'll cut the tips off, because actually the tips are cast aluminum. And I know it sounds weird, but a lot of times the scrapyard won't pay you, say, clean sheet if there's cast aluminum on it. At least mine won't. So I will separate the cast from the sheet. Of course, no Prima driver. If that blade was a little wider. Now, I'll take the cast little bits off of it. Which will in turn go in with my cast aluminum. And the clean sheet aluminum will go as clean sheet. And that's where these cable cutters come in handy. Hell, why? Well, deeper than that. Well, maybe not. And like I say, I just cut these things up small in order to fit in my tubs easier. Now I can just take a grinder and split that right down the side and pull out the cast pieces. Tell you what, this is good heavy aluminum though. Alright, now that's one. Knock the leaves out of the tub. This is always a battle for me. Leaves and water. And there's a start. Let me just cut that off of there. Boy, this thing is so old and dry rotted. Just rip it apart. Oh, excuse me. Awkward. Alright, well, I got those canopies cut up, and I went ahead and cut the pole in half for the umbrella, and there's a couple pieces of chairs that I cut a few aluminum pieces off of in there. And I think next on my agenda is this big piece of roofing metal I picked up. It's all aluminum, goes as clean aluminum sheet, nice fine. It looks almost identical to the stuff I picked up from the school a while back, and I had my truck loaded with metal. I mean, I had pieces like this from the hanging 5 feet out of the back of my truck over the cab, almost out to the hood. And I think that one load I took in was like $150, and just clean roofing metal like this, all extras and pieces that they had left over when they redid all the walkways. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the Sawzall here and see if I can't cut this down and just make it a little more manageable. You know, it's kind of long. Try to cut it up into probably 4 pieces just to make it a little more manageable for when I take it in. See if the Sawzall is going to cut it or if it's going to give me a headache. was that loud enough for you? It was for me. Now I'm going to double this stuff up. If I can get my fingers out. And like I say, I'm just going to do this to try to make it a little more manageable to load when I take it in. You know, I don't carry a saw or a grinder or anything with me when I go out scrapping, because 9 times out of 10, if I'm out in the morning, the ideal is to get it in the truck before the garbage man comes. So that's basically all I'm worried about. Anything that I need to try to cut up, or if by chance I come across something that's just too big and awkward to load, well, I'll pass it by. You know, no sense crying about it. And when you start pulling out tools and cutting and grinding and all that stuff in people's front yards, they're not too keen on that. So, alright, let's see if we can get this cut one more time. Hold your ears. Alright, that works for me. Oh yeah, much easier. Pitch it over here. Boy, I got stuff everywhere. My lawnmower graveyard. Waiting for lawnmower season to come back in. Start finding them and selling them again. Because that's one resale item actually I do pretty well on, is all the lawnmowers. Alright, we got that out of the way. That freed up a whole bunch of room. I can actually get to some stuff now. Plastic cover, which I use to cover up some of my bins. Keep the leaves out. All my tubs, basically, I cut holes in the bottom of them so the water will drain out, so I don't have to worry about that. But like I say, because I got trees everywhere, I got leaves everywhere. Alright, what's next, huh? Well, this old motor, somebody had already taken it out of the wash machine, so I'll take that in as a clean motor. You know, if you folks can see, a lot of times why I don't take apart these the motors out of washing machines and clothes dryers. I'm hoping this will show up. Take and scratch the wire, and I'm hoping that shows up on camera. But yeah, it's not copper wire, it's just aluminum wire, and it would go as clean sheet if I was to take it apart, and that's 47 cents a pound. The casing of the motor here would be cast aluminum at 40 cents a pound, and then the steel and the metal bits would just be 10 shred. And of course I cut this little bit of insulated wire off of, which I'm not even going to worry about, because I'll just take this one in as a clean motor, and it'll pay 15 cents a pound, and voila, I'm done with it. So let me get on to something else here. Get this extension cord kind of dealt with a little bit here. I find myself dragging this thing back and forth, back and forth. Garbage everywhere. Put it over here so I can trip on it. Oh, let's have a look at these blinds. These blind rods. First thing I want to do, is it steel? Yes, it's steel. But if you folks can see, the center rod of just about every one I've ever found is aluminum, and this is actually extruded aluminum, which will go for 70 cents a pound. And generally it's not hard to take out, you know. Sometimes you can just grab and rip. Like so. It doesn't always happen that easy, folks, let me tell you. But yeah, this will go as clean aluminum extrusion. I'll throw that over here. What little bit of extrusion I have. And the rest of this will just be pin shred. And since I got the saw out here, let me just go ahead and cut it in half, make it a little smaller. And yes, I just use the saw right into the dirt. Sort of in there. Alright, got this other one. Do the same thing here. Yep, it's just steel. Let's see if I can get that piece of aluminum to pull out. Yep. And this one's just going to get folded back up. And that's that. Hey, you probably look at this and you say, God, what a mess. But believe it or not, this is my organized chaos. It's how I do everything. Oh, more crutches. You find a lot of crutches when you're out picking up scrap metal. And they're not hard to cut up, you know, especially if you're, yeah, I throw things into everything. Everything becomes a garbage can sooner or later. But yeah, these are generally easy to take apart. Get it to that point, and then I use my cable cutters to cut off the plastic ends. I try to cut these right at the rivets here because the rivets are metal, they're steel. This one's got the plastic little push pins in here holding the end on, which will come right off. And I try to get as much as the aluminum as I can. You know, I don't worry about trying to get every last little bit because, like I say, it's all about how much time you want to spend in doing it. You know, this is actually Saturday, which is basically my day off. But since watching the weather, it's supposed to be a little cooler tomorrow. It cooled off a little bit tonight, or last night I should say. Because we were in the mid-80s all week during the daytime. You know, 85, 87. Beautiful January weather. And now it's in it's a mid to lower 60s. Like I say, I try to cut those close to the rivets in order to get as much aluminum as possible. If I can get that thing out. Come on. So then that's all clean sheet. The garbage. And I'm left with this one piece, and I still got the rivet in there, but the good thing is because it is just aluminum. If I can get this cap off of there. And because it is aluminum, you can just take, that's why I keep an old pair of side cutters. If you guys can see, the blades are all chipped up and broken, but that's because this is what I use it for. You know, aluminum's a pretty soft metal. Split it down the side, rip that rivet right out of there, and then bam, clean aluminum. Alright, let me get this other one cut up. Alright, I got the other crutch cut up. Now I've showed this on past videos with cutting the crutches up and cutting chairs and using the cable cutters to cut stuff up. You know, I guess I need to put a playlist together of just processing metal. But yeah, the rest of these crutches are just a piece of cake. This little end of the crutch, pull the plastic piece off. You got these two little pins for the adjuster. Sometimes there's two, sometimes there's one. Different styles, manufacturers, you know how it goes. But generally I just push them both in. Take a pick, reach in there, grab a hold, and just try to pull them out. Usually they're not too bad. Just keep your hand over them when you pull them out, because they will shoot out at you. And that's the end of that. There's another crutch cut up, added to the bucket. Oh, let me see, what's next? Oh, the umbrella. Yes, these things can be a pain in the butt, you know. They can be time consuming. First thing, if you're going to do one of these, the best thing to do is to try to get rid of the cover off the thing. Get it out of your way, which I'm going to have to open this thing up. Yes, get this cover out of your way. And you got to check, because not all these umbrellas are aluminum. I've grabbed them and, you know, they were folded up, grabbed it, threw it in the back of the truck to find out the dang thing was wood. Alright, now more garbage. More garbage. Plastic. And now we got the umbrella frame. Which is this one all screwed together? Yes, it is. Got a bunch of little screws up here at the top. See if these screws are going to cooperate with me. What do you know? Because sometimes, yeah, they get pretty rusty and they don't want to come out. This should just pop apart. Like so. Oh, this one doesn't have a metal ring. Look at that. Cool. Just got pins. Let all these fall down. Keep that up. And go around and get the rest of these screws out. Nope, these are full of dirt. Oh, all rusted up. Alright, well. Let's try brute force, huh? Which sometimes works. Sometimes it's actually easier. I can do this without hurting myself. There we go. Got all that apart. Now, this, I'm not going to put a whole lot of effort into this. So, is that supposed to push down? Nope. Nope. So all I'm going to do is wax some pieces off of it. And like I tell everybody, you know, you do this however you want to. There's no right or wrong way to do it. It's however you want to do it, whatever works best for you. You know, like I say, the more effort you put into it, which that's going in 10 thread, that's going into the 10 thread, and I'll keep this for clean sheet aluminum. You know, don't let somebody tell you that if you're not milking it for everything it's got, that you're not doing it right. That's just an opinion. No. Come on. Is gonna pull out easy enough? Yeah, they are. Cool. Sometimes these things come out real easy and sometimes they don't. Let me see here. Take that off. Cut that off. Pull that. And there's a piece of clean aluminum. Trying to look. Yep, that's extruded. You know, trying to determine sometimes, because they have what is called a square tubing, which is considered sheet aluminum, and then of course extruded aluminum. And of course they pay two different prices. You know, extrusion paying the most where I'm at. Oh, you ain't gonna cooperate at all, are you? And it's something you'll actually learn after doing it, on identifying the two. You know, extruded metal is just that. It's actually extruded from one solid piece. And, you know, sheet metal is just basically what it says. It's sheet metal. And I am pretty sure that is extruded. So, alright, let me get the rest of these taken apart now that I got an idea of how to do it. You know, that's half the battle right there, is trying to figure out your system of getting something apart. Once you get that figured out, then it goes a lot easier. Unless you're doing it the hard way, which is usually how I do it. So let me get the rest of these taken apart. Alright, well, got all that cut up, taken apart. So now, all nice clean extruded metal. It's just too big for my tub, which that's alright. As long as I can keep the leaves out of it, I'm happy. So, what am I going to get into next? I guess I could work on this thing some more. It's all clean, well, it will be clean extruded aluminum. But I have to go through and take the tops off because the plastic bits on the top. And once I get it apart, actually it comes apart real easy. Put my knee right there in the center where the rivet is, and it breaks the rivet, pops it right out, then bam, clean extrusion. You know, once you figure out a method for taking different things apart, it makes it go a lot easier and faster. So that's half the battle right there. That and making sure that you have tools to do it. You know, I can't express enough how much these cable cutters are invaluable in scrap metal. You know, all the aluminum chairs that I've cut up and crutches and what have you. It's good to have a good sawzall. You know, your pipe wrench, your cutters, and these two tools right here you should have with you every time you go out looking for scrap metal. You know, a magnet and a pair of side cutters. You know, you can choose whether to carry screwdrivers or what have you. I generally carry a little screw gun that's usually the battery's dead in it because I got a habit of leaving the little light on and not realizing it. But, you know, a good grinder, you know, with a cutoff wheel will come in very handy when cleaning little brass bits, depending on how picky your scrapyard is. You know, the pressure valves off of hot water heaters are nice big brass chunks, but the valve inside in the spring generally is made of steel, or, you know, it's magnetic, so I have to take those out. So I got to cut them out, and I've got it down pat pretty much. I just sit down there in my chair and cut them all up. Don't take too long, and before you know it, you got a nice little bucket of clean brass at my scrapyard, $1.45 a pound. So it's worth the time to me. And it's not that big of a deal. I'm sitting down, I'm outside, especially on a beautiful day like this where it's not too hot, sun shining. So yep, I think that's gonna do it though for me. I guess I could show you guys cutting up one of these refrigeration cores. You know, if you haven't seen me do it before, it's not really a big deal. You know, this is where my greatest tool I've ever found in the world is the old metal milk crate. You know, I've had this milk crate for many years. I used it when I worked on cars because, you know, when you're 230, 240 pounds, the plastic ones just kind of crumble after a while. This sucker, you can stand on it, you can sit on it. I've taken transmissions and sat on top of it, and, you know, put a bucket underneath it like it sits, put a small bucket underneath it and drained them out. It kind of, you know, 1,001 uses, let me tell you. So let me cut one of these cores and I'll show you folks that. Like I said, I know I've shown you before, but I'll show you again. I mean, if I don't show you nothing, what's the sense in making the video, right? And I've noticed I've gotten a lot more viewers, a lot of new viewers. You know, for you folks that are new to the channel, I do have a couple playlists. I need to probably go back and update some of that stuff. But yeah, I've got a couple videos and playlists that show, you know, what's inside, like taking apart a microwave or a refrigerator, some of the common things that you find scrapping as far as tearing them apart for micro scrapping. You know, the reasons why I don't do the microwaves, I just cut the cord off and take it straight to the tin shred pile. You know, if it's worth it, you know, I'll let you guys be the judge and on yourself on what you think is worth doing. It's, like I say, it boils down to time. All right, let me get this thing cut up. Try to get it close to the edge, get some weight on it, set my Sawzall close to the edge of the metal as I can. Alright, that's off. So that's what I'm left with. Plus I got all these little, some people call them noodles, you know, copper macaronis, whatever you want to call them. I call it gold because it's copper. A lot of times I set something down here, so the ones that fall off I don't lose, because it never fails. A week from now I'll be picking these things up, but I'll do that to the same side, and then I'll sit down, and generally, as long as you get a good close cut here, these things will come right out. Get a pair of tin snips, or yeah, tin snips. I use my old side cutters or a pair of pliers and just pop them right out. And then that'll all go, all the noodles or the copper berries will go into the number 2, and this plate is just tin shred. Alright, got all the cores cut off, so I'm just going to show you folks how easy it is to pull and pick copper berries, as I call them. Like I say, old pair of side cutters, and just pop them off. Now, like I said before, the closer you get them cut to the steel plate, the easier they are to come off. Just sit here and pick copper. Throw it in my number 2 bucket. Doesn't usually take too long. And that's one down. And that will go to his tin shred. And I'll just keep sitting here and picking through these. Pick all this stuff off and put it in the bucket, and sooner or later we'll make a non-ferrous run and take some of this stuff in. You know, generally I do a non-ferrous run when either I have quite a bit of extrusion or quite a bit of sheet aluminum, because that can take up a lot more room. And as you can well see, it can get out of control, you know, depending on how much stuff I find when I go out. You know, sometimes I go out and I find all kinds of aluminum. Sometimes I go out and I don't find hardly any. Boy, some nice pieces on that, huh? As you see here, I didn't get real close to the plate. There's actually some of the aluminum fins on there, so a little bit more difficult to get it out. But it will come out eventually. Oh, nice stiff stuff. Into the bucket. So that's basically what I do to those. Now I'm gonna sit here and clean all this stuff. And let me see real quick. Is that brass? Yep. All the brass fittings. I'll cut all those brass fittings off and they'll go into my brass bucket. And like I say, sooner or later we'll take it all in and make some money. I really need to get out here and clean some garbage up, huh? I got stuff everywhere. If I get rid of all the garbage and get more organized, it'd probably be a lot easier. You know, I was watching Scrap Hawk not too long ago. Put out a video where he was showing he expanded his work area where he does his scrapping, and everything's so organized and so clean. And I walk out here and look at this and it's like, yeah. But that's the way I do it. Organized chaos. It's what happens when you work in a junkyard for 23 years. You get used to having junk everywhere. Oh, one more thing. I'll include this in this video. I picked up these light fixtures. I only have 2 of these. I picked up a bunch of these once before. They redid all the lighting at the school, the outside lighting in the on the walkways, and got all these cast aluminum light fixtures. And you know, got a couple little goodies inside. Got some number 2 wire, nice copper transformer, which my scrapyard will only buy the transformers that are pure copper. The ones that are like in microwaves, a lot of other appliances that are actually half copper and half aluminum, they don't buy them, you know. So I don't even bother with them. Where is it at? There it is. If I remember right, some of these are 1/4 inch and some are 5/16. Take these apart. Get all the screws out. And like I say, I get a nice transformer. Oh, come on now. Take that wire nut. Not going to cooperate. It's alright. Yeah. So I get a nice little transformer. I get some number 2 insulated wire. This actually, that's clean aluminum sheet. And I don't know if that's aluminum or not. No, it's not. That I would just throw in my tin shred. Actually, the inside of this is, I can't remember if that's brass or aluminum, but I don't even mess with it. I'll just cut the wires off of it, and the rest of it will go in my tin shred. Oh, I didn't get the ground wire. Nice little piece of bare copper, which this is not thick enough to be considered number one at my scrapyard. So I'll just clip the little brass end off and it'll just go into my number two. And like I say, insulated wire. Dump the screws off. Pull the padding off. And then there is a nice piece of cast aluminum. Like I say, I got a bunch of these one time. Paid pretty well. And as you've seen, it didn't take too long to tear it apart. Let me just throw that in there. A lot of times I'll take these buckets and I'll go through them and pull out all the little pieces of metal, and all that'll go into a 5-gallon bucket, and then it gets dumped at the scrapyard or dumped into a wash machine or what have you. And it all gets scrapped sooner or later. All right, so that's going to do it for me for today. I hope everybody enjoyed the video. Maybe you learned something. Maybe you could teach me something. I'm sure there's plenty of folks out there that could. But that's going to do it for me. So until next time.